When your pet dies, where do they go? The answer may surprise you. You didn't just lose a pet. You lost a presence, a quiet companion who knew your routines better than most people, who sat with you on ordinary days and the hardest ones, who loved without asking questions and stayed without conditions. And when they died, something in the house went silent in a way no one warned you about. The bowl is still there, the leash, the spot on the couch, but they're gone. And somewhere in the middle of your grief, a question rises that many Christians are afraid to say out loud. Where did they go? Not as a metaphor, not as a children's story, but truly, where are they now? Are they just gone? Did God notice them at all? Will you ever see them again? Or is that hope something you're supposed to quietly bury along with your tears? If you've ever been told, it was just an animal, but your heart knew better, this message is for you. Because Scripture may not answer this question the way sentiment does, but it also doesn't answer it the way cold theology does either. And what the Bible reveals about God, creation and the future may surprise you and comfort you more deeply than you expect. Chapter 1. Why losing a pet hurts more than we expect. Losing a pet hurts in a way most people never prepare you for, because the grief doesn't fit neatly into the categories we've been taught. There's no formal ritual, no extended leave from work, no clear words people know how to say. Yet the ache is real, heavy, and strangely personal. A pet doesn't just live in your home, they live inside your daily rhythm. They greet you when the world ignores you. They notice when your voice is tired. They sit beside you in silence when prayer feels hard and words won't come. And when they're gone, it's not just absence you feel, it's disruption. What makes the loss so deep is that pets love us at our most unguarded. They see us before the masks go on, and after they come off. They don't care about your past mistakes, your income, your status, or your failures. They stay. That kind of presence leaves a mark. Ecclesiastes says God has set eternity in the human heart, and when something that felt eternal disappears, it shakes us. We're not just grieving the animal, we're grieving the safety, the consistency, the small moments that anchored our days. Many believers feel guilt over this grief, as if mourning a pet somehow competes with loving God. But Scripture shows us a God who notices sorrow others overlook. Jesus said not a single sparrow falls to the ground outside the Father's care, and if God sees the smallest creature fall, He certainly sees your tears when one you loved is gone. Grief is not a lack of faith, it's evidence of love. Proverbs tells us that the righteous care for the needs of their animals, which means the bond you formed was never insignificant or foolish. It was righteous care expressed in daily faithfulness. The pain surprises us because it's quiet and constant. There's no dramatic ending, just an empty space where a living soul once moved freely through your life. And that silence forces the heart to ask deeper questions about love, loss, and whether anything God creates is ever truly wasted. Chapter 2. Animals in God's original design. To understand where animals belong in God's story, we have to go back to the beginning, before grief, before death, before loss ever entered the world. In Genesis, animals are not an afterthought. They are not background decoration. They appear early, intentionally, spoken into existence by God's own voice. Before sin ever touched creation, before humanity failed, animals were already there, living, moving, breathing under God's blessing. And when God looked at what He had made, including them, He didn't say it was temporary or disposable. He said it was very good. That matters more than we realize. Death was not part of God's original design. Pain was not the plan. Separation was not the intention. Animals existed in a world where harmony was normal, where creation lived in balance, and where God walked openly among what He had made. Adam was given the task of naming the animals, not as an act of ownership, but of relationship and stewardship. Naming in Scripture always implies care, attention, and connection. From the very start, humanity and animals were meant to exist together, not as equals, but as companions within God's ordered world. When sin entered, everything broke, not just human hearts, but the entire creation. Romans tells us that creation itself groans, waiting to be set free from decay. Animals suffer not because God designed them for suffering, but because they were caught in a fallen world they didn't choose. Yet even after the fall, God's care for animals never disappears. He gives instructions for their treatment, provides laws that protect them, and even uses them repeatedly as instruments of his purposes. From the ravens that fed Elijah to the great fish that carried Jonah, animals are woven into God's ongoing work, not sidelined from it. What this tells us is simple but powerful. Animals matter to God because creation matters to God. They were part of his joy before sin, part of his patience after sin, and part of his promise moving forward. If animals were included in a world God called very good, then their value was never accidental. And if God does not abandon his original design, then the story of animals does not end where death begins. Chapter 3. Do animals have souls? What the Bible actually says. This is usually where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because people want a quick yes or no, and the Bible rarely speaks that way. Scripture doesn't give us a neat definition chart comparing human souls to animal souls, but it does give us something better. It gives us language, patterns, and truth, if we're willing to slow down and listen. In the book of Genesis, the same Hebrew phrase used to describe human life is also used to describe animal life, nefesh kaya, a living being that matters. It tells us that animals are not lifeless objects, animated by instinct alone. They are living creatures, breathed into existence by God, animated by the breath of life. Now, humans are clearly unique. We are made in the image of God, in a way animals are not. We are given moral responsibility, spiritual accountability, and an eternal destiny tied to redemption through Christ. But uniqueness does not equal exclusivity of value. Ecclesiastes reflects on the mystery of life and asks, who knows if the human spirit rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down into the earth? That's not a dismissal, it's an admission of humility. Scripture acknowledges that there is mystery here, and it doesn't rush to close the door where God has left it open. What we do know is this: animals feel, respond, remember, and form bonds. Anyone who has loved a pet knows that what they experienced wasn't mechanical, it was relational. And the Bible consistently affirms that God relates to animals not just as property, but as creatures under his care. The Psalms say God provides food for the cattle and feeds the young ravens when they cry out. Jesus himself points to animals to teach about trust, reminding us that the birds neither sow nor reap, yet the Father feeds them. The real mistake many Christians make is assuming that if animals don't share the exact same eternal role as humans, then they must share none at all. Scripture never says animals are meaningless beyond this life. It simply focuses its redemptive message on humanity, because salvation addresses sin, and animals never sinned. Their story is different, not lesser. So when we ask if animals have souls, the honest biblical answer is this: they have God-given life, breath, and being, sustained by his will, and whatever God breathes life into is not trivial, forgotten, or disposable. The Bible may not satisfy our curiosity fully, but it gives us something stronger than speculation. It gives us permission to trust God's goodness, where details remain hidden. Chapter 4. Heaven, the new earth, and the redemption of creation. One of the biggest misunderstandings Christians carry is the idea that the end of the story is us floating away to a distant heaven, while the rest of creation is quietly discarded. That picture isn't biblical. Scripture doesn't point toward escape. It points toward restoration. The final promise of the Bible is not the abandonment of the earth, but its renewal. Revelation speaks of a new heaven and a new earth, not a replacement, but a redeemed version of what was broken. God doesn't throw away what he loves. He restores it. This matters deeply when we talk about animals. Romans tells us that creation itself is waiting, groaning, longing to be liberated from decay. That means the redemption Christ brings is not limited to human souls alone. It reaches outward, touching everything fractured by sin. Isaiah paints a future kingdom filled with peace so complete that the wolf lies down with the lamb and nothing harms or destroys in all God's holy mountain. These aren't random poetic images. They are glimpses into God's heart for a restored world where harmony returns. Notice something important here. Animals are present in that vision, not as symbols to be discarded once the message is delivered, but as part of the world God restores. The Bible consistently shows us that God's future involves physical reality, bodies resurrected, earth renewed, creation healed. Jesus didn't rise as a ghost, he rose embodied. That resurrection becomes the pattern for everything God intends to redeem. When we think of eternity only as a spiritual cloudscape, we shrink God's promise. The gospel doesn't just save individuals, it heals creation. Colossians says God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of the cross. All things. That phrase is bigger than we often allow it to be. This doesn't mean we can map eternity with certainty, or demand specific outcomes, but it does mean that God's plan is far more generous and expansive than fear-based theology allows. If creation fell together, it will be restored together. And if animals were part of the original harmony God called very good, there is no biblical reason to believe they are excluded from the restoration he calls very glorious. Chapter 5. Will you see your pet again? Hope without false promises. This is the question that sits quietly beneath every other one. The question people whisper in prayer, but hesitate to say out loud. Will I ever see them again? And if we're going to answer honestly as Christians, we have to walk a careful line, not stealing hope where God gives it, and not inventing promises he never made. The Bible does not give us a direct sentence that says, yes, your specific pet will be waiting for you. But it also does not say, no, what you loved is erased forever, and that silence is not cruelty. It's invitation. Scripture consistently points us back to the character of God, rather than a checklist of outcomes. Abraham trusted the judge of all the earth to do what is right. That's the posture we're invited into here. God knows what that animal meant to you. He knows the bond, the comfort, the years of shared life. Psalm 139 says that God is intimately acquainted with all our ways, and that includes the love we poured into creatures he himself made. Nothing you loved was invisible to him. Hope becomes dangerous only when it turns into demand. But hope rooted in God's goodness is different. Jesus tells us that the Father delights in giving good gifts to his children, not bare minimum gifts, good ones. And while eternity is not designed around fulfilling nostalgia, it is designed around joy, restoration, and completeness. Revelation describes a future where God wipes away every tear, not some tears, not symbolic tears, but the real griefs that marked our lives. If the loss of your pet still brings tears, then God sees that too. What we can say with confidence is this: eternity will not feel like loss. Conclusion: grief, hope, and the God who misses nothing. When your pet died, something small but sacred slipped out of your life, and God did not miss it. He is not distant from that loss, nor dismissive of it. Scripture reminds us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and that promise was never limited to grief the world considers important enough. God sees what others minimize. He counts the tears you cried in private, the moments you still pause expecting to hear familiar footsteps, the quiet ache that returns when memory catches you off guard. None of it is wasted. None of it is ignored. The Bible may not answer every question the way we want, but it points us toward a God whose goodness is deeper than our understanding. From creation to restoration, from Eden to the new earth, God reveals himself as a redeemer, not a destroyer. He does not forget what he lovingly formed. He does not abandon what he once called good, and he does not mock the love you shared with a creature he placed in your care. If there is one truth you can rest in, it is this: whatever eternity holds, it will not be less beautiful, less loving, or less complete than what your heart longs for now. The God who designed joy knows how to restore it. The God who notices sparrows does not overlook your grief. And the God who promises to make all things new is not careless with the old things you cherished. So let yourself grieve without shame. Let yourself hope without fear, and place the unanswered details into the hands of a Father who has never failed to be kind. One day, every question will be answered not with explanations but with peace. Until then, trust this: nothing loved in God was ever meaningless, and nothing entrusted to him is ever truly lost.